G'day, curious minds, and welcome back to Onion Unlimited, the podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Torridon, and this morning I've got on as my esteemed guest, all the way back from a trip to Costa Rica, back in Florida, Mason Kuhr. Nice to meet you, Mason. Am I pronouncing your surname correctly?
You got it. It's Kuhr.
Kuhr. Okay, I always get something wrong.
Yeah,
and the other thing I'm going to get wrong today is we're talking all about. Let me get this right. We're talking about Ayahuasca. Am I pronouncing that correct?
Yeah, we can talk about some ayahuasca. We can talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, brilliant. So I've been. I invited you on the show because I just stumbled across you actually on Twitter the other day. And I liked what you were putting out. It was that post, you did a post where you drew a picture of a load of eyes on a page. And
I can show the camera.
Have you got it there?
I do. You know I got it on me. Got it strapped up. There you go.
There you go.
Yes.
A load of eyes, yeah. That caught my attention. I thought, hey, what's going on there? That's it reminded me a bit actually, because I've got a bit of a in the past I used to be quite religious, so I've got a bit of a Bible background. It reminded me of the eyes around the rims of the wheels in the Ezekiel's vision, where he saw that chariot thing.
Yeah. 100%. Someone commented on that as well, and the way it's described in the Bible, it sounds, I'm not like super familiar with that verse. I have a Bible, I read it, and I've got more interested in it after this experience. But for me, I actually grew up in a half Jewish, half Christian home.
Oh, okay.
So I saw both religions. And so that really expanded my mind on, where's the deeper truth? And so
yes, that's kind of that's sort of I guess the reason why I set up the Onion Unlimited podcast in the first place is I'm keen to kind of peel back the layers of things to find truth. Sometimes it's easier, I find, to find out what is not true than what is true. Peel back the things that don't serve you. And what you've got sort of underlying, hopefully there'll be like a little kernel of truth there. There was something you said actually in one of your recent video reels. You said anything that lacks love is not the truth.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? That's pretty profound, that.
Right. Well, so my first experience, I guess we'll just go straight into ayahuasca. My first night there, and I realized going into the whole plant medicine thing and going with the intent of healing, I realized my heart was pretty closed for a long time. I was stuck in the mind. And I think a lot of people, and I know a lot of people go through their lives with a closed heart, and what that leads to is fear, self-doubt, not living life up to our full potential, not being who we know inside we truly are. And so we look at our relationships or our monetary success, whatever success is to us in life. And it's that's a direct correlation of how open our heart is, how truly we are aligned and living in truth. And so my first night going through the ceremony, it really took me on a journey of understanding, because my intent was to go in and know what it's like to experience myself with a full and open heart, what that would look like and feel like. And so I went through and I clearly saw that we hear all the time, love is everything. Love is the purpose. We hear it in songs. We hear it from the Beatles. We hear music, and it talks about it all the time, that it's become cliche, but it's once you really get a deep understanding of how profoundly powerful it is, it changes everything, because love is it's the energy of unity and connection, right? And so if everything was created by God, right, the God that we perceive, if everything is created by God, that means God put it out as a creation that's all together in one. And why did he do that? Because he loved to do it. It's literally the first line in the Bible. It's talking about how God creates. And so we can see that's the nature of the creator, is that the creator is creative because he loves to do it, and he loves his creation. And so I almost imagined, I saw love as like this giant capsule that everything is in, right? It's like a pill. It's like the love pill, and that's life, right? And so every breath we take is an act of devotion and love for life and love for the creator, right? And so if nothing has love in it, it's simply lacking the truth, because the truth is that love is the whole point. It's literally what everything is, and it can't be anything else. So if you don't have love in it, like us as sovereign creators and children of God, we have the choice of whether we live in truth or we live in lies.
Right. So that resonates quite a lot with me. I don't know if you realise, but I was from a background of Jehovah's Witnesses. Don't know. I know you mentioned in one of your tweets that you've examined loads of different religions looking for the truth. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, which is a kind of Christian religion, although mainstream Christianity would say it's not. I came to realise over a course of about 50 years, it was less a religion, which I'm not really keen on religion per se, but less of a religion even, and more of a cult. It used to throw around the term "the truth" quite liberally in reference to itself. So we always used to say that we had the truth and that we were the truth. Our religion was the only truth, and there was no other truth out there to be had. And yet at the same time, as claiming to have the truth and also to be the most loving, happy people on earth, there was also quite a lot of hatred and judgment, certainly judging of other people. And the kind of God that you were just referring to, God there, the kind of God that we worshipped was a very demanding God, that he sort of gave you a choice to worship him or not, but if you chose not to, he'd kill you. And it had to be, the worship was always prescribed through the powers that be. The leaders of that religion got to say what was true, what was false, what the Bible meant. And you were basically told, either do it this way or that's it, you're dead, kind of thing. And that to me didn't really strike me as, well, A, as much of a choice, and B, as particularly very loving. This idea that we're the only people on the planet that are going to survive this oncoming apocalypse that God was apparently going to bring. It just didn't seem very loving to me, and I think that's partly one of the reasons why I came to the conclusion that particular religion, cult, whatever, wasn't the truth. Partly because of that lack of love and the sheer judgmental nature, where it was a very, very much a case of us and them. There was no oneness there. There was no trying to bring people together in unity. You sort of had the insiders and the outsiders. Would you say that's a fair? Would you say that? Be honest with me if you think I'm wrong there. But do you think that's a fair appraisal of organised religion in general?
I would say so, because I was actually watching this video today, and it was talking about, how even Jesus spent time with who we would consider today as lowlifes, right? Walking around with the poor, prostitutes, those who needed redeeming, right? And so lowering himself, not actually lowering himself, right? Because our mind perceives the ego as like higher or lower, or better, right, out of survival. And, just walking around with people from a place of humility. And so it's like today, I think that's what happens too over time, is religion will start to take on the beliefs more so of the believers rather than the original message and the doctrine, right?
Yes.
And so a lot of people today will, think because they are labeled as a Christian that it's morally superior. And, the practice itself, it's beautiful. Like Christianity is legit. Like if you follow the message of Jesus,
yes,
you will end up in the right place. You will live a beautiful life, and you'll have a closer connection to God, the closest that you can get, like through following those principles. In my opinion, my experience, But it's like the religion label on the surface is very divisive, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because religion is groupthink at the end of the day. And so if within the groupthink people aren't thinking themselves, then that's what a cult is.
Exactly. Yeah, you've nailed it in one there. Yeah. And where do you think that went wrong? Because I do believe in Jesus. You know, I didn't sort of throw that belief out with my lack of religiosity when I ended that. I still kept my belief in Jesus, and I think he was a great guy, spiritual master. You know, I mean, some of the truths he taught were the greatest, aren't they? The golden rule, that kind of thing. So where did it all go wrong? Where did we end up with basically a bunch of people all saying that they believe in Jesus and worship Jesus or follow Jesus, but they're all saying that the other groups are going to go to hell or die at Armageddon? Where did that creep in, do we think?
I believe it's from the churches just throughout history have spread the message in different ways. You know, it's like there's a lot of false prophets within churches who want to just assume control. Right. And so it's like, if you look at medieval times, so many people were peasants, not able to read. And because you can't read, you can't educate yourself, you can't think more. And our entire reality is dictated by our vocabulary. Yeah. Right. So it's like, if we don't know certain words, this is the trippiest thing ever. If we don't know certain words, we are limited in how we can perceive reality. And the way we perceive reality is reality itself. It's hot versus cold versus frigid or scolding. It completely changes reality. And so when people are not able to think deeper by using more words and gain different perceptions of reality, they can't really question anything. And so what's the one driver that's left over is the emotions that are fed to them, right? Because they've never really learned how to gain the awareness of themselves and the world. And so it's accepting everything without actually questioning it and reading it and going deeper into a certain line of scripture and saying, wait, maybe this isn't what they're telling me. And so whether it's scripture or just reading in general, it takes away your ability to think and be sovereign. And so, you know, that's how you get ruling by fear and emotions. And fear is really just like the one thing that that can keep anyone at just a lower state of consciousness, because it's one of the lowest. Right?
Well, you've got two basic motivators, haven't you? Fear or love. That's the two. It's either repelling people or attracting people. It's one or the other, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, because like both, you can't have one without the other. No, but one can only exist.
Yes, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah,
it's a paradox, and that's what I saw on my second journey. Right, so we can go into it whenever you want.
Yeah, well, we're getting to this ayahuasca. So have I got you right then in saying that you're not particularly a fan of organized religion, but you are a spiritual person? That's right. Kind of where you're coming from.
For me, I grew up, like I said, half Jewish, half Christian home. I walked away from both for a long time because it's just like, to me, it was like, well, if they're both right, they're both wrong. And so that's like the way I grew up. And then I went down into the consciousness rabbit hole, ended up in some of the new age things. And then back in like February, I actually started going to church more with my girlfriend. But because I left it, and because I had this outside perspective, I was able to feel what it was like to actually like seek Christ and the message of Christ from an external point of view of like not being lost in the sauce, but being able to step back and seeing it from the outside in. And so I chose to walk into it and, experience the message myself and live it. And so for me, no, I'm not religious by any sense, but I would say I'm a follower of Christ. I follow in the footsteps Christ led. But at the same time too, like I'm a man, like I'm a sovereign man in my own being, and I have a connection with God. And that's all that really matters to me. Like I know I felt the truth in myself. I felt the truth of, in the world around me. And so there's what's true and there's truth, right? To me, I know what's true to me, and I've experienced the truth inside. And so I just follow the voice.
That's interesting. So the Christian route, I was talking about this last night with Mariella. The Christian message, of the self-sacrificing Christ that essentially gives himself up for other people out of love and so forth. Something that kind of I pieced together with your ayahuasca journey when you went to Costa Rica was you said that you felt during this ceremony that you had that you literally died. There was like a surrendering of self. And somewhere along the line, I think you even mentioned about Christ in this journey as well. What did you say now?
Yeah.
I mean, it's such an amazing story. Could you just take us through that actual...
I'll take you through it.
Take us through that actual journey. So you ended up in Costa Rica searching for something, I assume.
So, originally, like my friend, Ari Malloy, shout out to him, big holistic wellness influencer, brother of mine. He was hosting a retreat, and so he brought this up. And in the past, I had the experience of plant medicine come up multiple times, and I was scared of it every single time, so I didn't do it. But, this one approached. He's a good friend of mine, and so I just felt very welcome and trusted in the process, I guess, or trusting the process. And so I said, let's go.
Let's go.
And just booked it and went down. And so I didn't really know what I was seeking when I went down there, but there was something inside of me that did. And I think that's really where a lot of the magic in life comes from too, is when we feel like we need to do something, but we don't know why. If you just do it, you'll figure out why eventually. It'll reveal itself. And so, when I was down there, like I definitely had a heavier energy before I went in. I felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders, had a lot of business stress going on, all types of things. I was just like, I need a reset, I guess. And so went down there to get away more than anything. And the first night, like I said, it was about love more than anything, and really just understanding that love is one, love is the purpose, love is the truth, and the truth is love, right? So it's like when we say these things, like when we actually speak the truth, when we say things truthful, we are giving love. So it's like they are synonymous together. And love is the truth because it's the thing that encapsulates everything. And the truth is all that is. There's nothing that isn't.
So at this point, this was a discussion you were having, or had you actually done the ayahuasca at this point?
This was the first night, and this was when I was going through the journey. I very clearly saw all these messages. It was a lot of visuals, a lot of visions, and I saw how religion can be misleading as like I said, the cult-like thing, and also taking us out of the present moment into a future heaven, or back into the past. And it's like we can experience it right now. We can feel it right now.
Oh, that's interesting you say that, because as a religious person, I never really lived in the now. It was always about regretting what I've done in the past and looking forward to being rewarded or punished in the future. There was never a now at this moment where I was actually enjoying truth.
And you know what the funny thing is about that? When we're always living in the past or the future, we can't help but feel fear and regret.
Absolutely.
Or anxiety. Like it's impossible to feel love.
Yeah.
And so when we live in the now, that's the only time that we can actually feel love.
There's actually a verse, isn't there, in the Bible that says that love casts fear out.
Yeah. And so you can also translate it to the present has all the love that you need, because it gets rid of all that fear.
Love it.
The present has everything we need. And it's all that exists. Like if we think about our memories, they're just past present moments. So
I love it. So and this was just day one. You'd already sort of sussed out the religion's not the way to go, and fear and love. What were some of these visions you were having?
Yeah. So fear was actually the second night, and I'll get into
Oh, that's
that.
the second night. Okay.
Yeah, for me, like I was going through, I mean, there's so many just like different profound insights I had on the first night. Like I was basically traveling through, um, it's hard to describe in words because our mind
Sure.
wants to try and conceptualize, but it's like there are dimensions. It sounds crazy to hear to the mind, but there are dimensions all around us and inside of us, and energies, right? And so it's almost like it's this 5D type thing where it's like to go up, we have to go in, and it like expands out around us, right? Almost like a tesseract in the movie, like the Avengers, where it's like going inside and outside of itself. That's what it's all like. And so I could see like from this life to the next, this body that we're in is just a vessel that we're here to learn certain things. And like in the next life, we embody a different form, a different energy. We're lighter if we go towards the light. And at the end of the day, it was all just going back to this single source of oneness, which was the infinite creator, right? And so I just saw clearly that there is a journey that we go to in the afterlife. Yes, there's a heaven, and yes, there's a hell that we can experience. But, we can also experience that right now because it exists on every single plane, right? It can't exist there without existing here too, and a realm above that. And so I saw this very clearly. It's so hard for our minds to put together. But, between that, I also saw how our role as men is to be the protectors and basically the journeymen and the protectors of women, like from this life into the next, right? That's what we call like a soulmate. Or when we get married to someone, like we're taking on the duty of, I'm going to protect you and guide you in this life on the physical realm as we go into the next, into the spirit, and we get closer to oneness. Right. And so, those elements of Christianity and religion, they're beautiful, but it's like the message has just been mistranslated and misused.
Sure. Yeah. The religious message has basically taken spirituality and kind of secularized it, hasn't it? So you talk a lot about fear going into this ayahuasca journey. Can I just ask at the outset there, ayahuasca, what actually is it? Is it a drink? Is it a pill? Is it a...
Yeah, so
are you chewing on leaves or...
Few ingredients. It's a drink.
It's a drink.
And so, there's a leaf and there's a vine, right? And so I wish I had the vine on me, but inside you can see like sacred geometry of this vine that's...
Okay.
It's crazy to think because it's literally just like the most bland looking thing out in nature in the jungle, right? But it has so much power, right? And it shows us like in the ordinary, there's so much power if you just open your eyes, right? And so it's a drink that you drink in the ceremony, and you have a shaman there. My friend Ari was there. And, we had people playing music as we, kind of started to journey a little bit. It takes about like 40 minutes to kick in. So we meditated before. You don't want to drink water, eat anything, probably like 4 hours before. And so we all sit there and we meditate in silence after we drink it, do the ceremony part. And then once it starts to kick in, you really just feel like, you can just feel the third eye. Like it's really all I can say. Like there's a pressure here, and I still feel it now. It's more active. But you feel like there's just this pressure that's kind of opening up inside of you, and eventually it encapsulates you. And so, once you go on that journey, like we have music, like people are drinking smaller cups of it, playing music to help guide you. It's almost like this like line that you can hold on to keep yourself grounded in a way.
Because you say that you said in one of your tweets that to use your own words, you said you literally died. So you experienced the real death of Mason. Did you actually die? As in,
I died. No,
you died during it.
Yeah, I died, like legit.
So this is not just like a symbolic death to the ego. For a brief moment, like, you actually stopped living. Right. Okay.
I was out. I was gone. So I was literally meditating. I'll just walk you through what I was experiencing. So it's the second night. It's hard. It sounds crazy, but I'm like, wow, I died. Yeah, it was the second night. And so I thought it was going to be the same lovey-dovey experience going into this one. And I was completely wrong. Right. So I'm sitting there and I was kind of feeling anxious and just like having some anxious thoughts come up and fears in front of me and all this stuff. And, like, I was like, this isn't how it's supposed to be, And so as soon as you start doing that, as soon as the mind starts grasping with this, ayahuasca is one of those things where it's like, you can go in telling it what you want, but it's going to give you what you need. Right. So it's going to go in your brain. It's going to find like a deep, dark crevice of something that you've tucked away and like completely suppressed, completely forgot about. And it's going to be like, no, we're going here. And you're sitting there like, no, please don't take me there. Please
yeah,
don't.
I've heard that before.
Like, no,
yeah, my friend Andy said that you always get what you need, not what you expect. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it takes you there. And for me, it took me all the way, I guess. So I was in my meditation position, and as I'm sitting there, there was in this visual, basically like the room faded out. And there was almost like a cement gray floor in front of me. No walls, but it's just like cement gray, and there's like black in the distance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm meditating. There's no body while I'm like in this state. It was just consciousness floating, right? And so I'm watching this black float in. It's just black essence. And it just went on forever. And as it gets closer and closer, I'm just feeling more and more scared. And more scared. And I'm like, have you ever had a panic attack?
Yes. Yeah,
You know
they're terrifying. You think you're going to die.
Yeah, that feeling of impending doom. I felt that, but it would just keep increasing.
Okay.
Right? Over and over and over and over. And this thing would get closer and closer. And at points there was like a jaguar as a panther. Like kind of walking in it slowly and peek in and out. And this energy was coming at me. And it was literally just like the energy of infinite and absolute fear. Like it was, if you can think of a fear and that feeling you get, if you take that and you just make it infinite times worse and absolute and continuously getting worse, that's what the feeling was. And so it's like something I hope nobody ever has to experience in their life. Ever. But this feeling just came at me, and I was literally sitting there like, I'm going to die. And so I didn't know what to do. I was trying to fight it.
Whoa.
And so I'm like looking up, I kind of opened my eyes into the physical world, and I look at the shaman, and I was like, I want to say like help or something, but I didn't want to do it because other people were going on their journeys. I didn't want to freak them out. And so like, keep that in mind. I was still thinking about other people. Their journeys were on my mind. And so I was like, I'm going to just close my eyes again and try and feel it out. And this thing gets closer and closer. This panther mouth opens, and around me is just pure blackness. And I literally was like, I'm going to die. And it got to a point, it was so bad. I felt so much fear. Like I'm like probably micro convulsing, right? No one could see it, but I was like convulsing so fast where I finally was just like, I'm going to die. Like, screw it. I'm done. And so as soon as I surrendered to it and let it kill me, it was almost like when a TV goes static, right? And so like it felt like static, and it just sounded like explosions in my head. And the last thing like I remember like after that was shooting off into this other, the I dimension that I sent you, that realm of self.
Yeah.
On the way there. But like, before I like get into that more, I was on the floor. I remember like being on the floor, right? I heard some like loud noises. I was on the floor, and I was like, why is my head on the wood? And the shaman was behind me. He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. But like when that happened, when I got consumed by that fear and just decided to die, my body literally, like in real life, reported by everyone there, just shot out like backwards, and I just fell back, went limp, and I was like dead.
Okay.
I was literally dead.
Wow.
I was gone. And then he came over, he did some shamanic stuff to me, and I was like all of a sudden like alive again. And so I literally faded out of, like, I watched my entire life. You can't put it into words because we always compare words to concepts and things that we know, but we don't really know anything. And so I watched all of Mason, everyone I know, every relationship, everything I built, everything like just everything swept away. And there's no concept that we can even put together what that was like, because it's like, obviously the ego goes with it. So there was no lens to even perceive it through. Right. And so I literally just disintegrated into nothing. It was the craziest thing ever.
This was one of your tweets, if I can just read it back to you. You said, during that time, I literally died like real death. I can't put it into words because the ego creates the words. The ego itself was gone. The ego is just a perception of a made-up story trying to conceptualize itself and become infinite, although it never can. The ego is scared of its true nature. The fact that it's not even real, it's just a shadow. That's why the snake tells Adam and Eve to eat the apple and be like God. It's the mind tempting us to perceive ourselves as God, when perception is not even real. It's a tool to see the real. It's like a hammer trying to become the builder. I shot into the infinite when I died. I saw everything, literally everything. I was everything and everywhere. I am everything and everywhere. I mean, you say you can't put it into words, but I think you made a pretty good job of doing that there.
Yeah, that was super fresh.
That's I mean, so much there. Is what you say you felt this amazing sense of fear, this like panther coming to destroy it. What was it you were actually scared of?
It was everything. It was literally everything I've feared coming into one. I mean, I feared like losing relationships that are close to me. I feared, what if my business just collapses out of nowhere? I feared even just the thought of like in the group while they're singing, I was thinking about like, oh God, what if I have to sing while I can't like even be conscious right now?
Were you scared of yourself? Were you scared of yourself?
Scared of myself. Yeah. Scared of my own existence.
Scared of your own existence. Yeah, that's what that sounds like.
And so that's what I realized what the ego truly is that it knows it doesn't exist in the first place because it's a lens of separation. Yeah. Which is inside the encapsulation of connection. Right? So it's like we can imagine a globe, right? One side you have light and dark. One side does not know what it is unless it perceives the other. Right? Because it has to look at itself, says, oh, I'm dark because that's light. Like, unless it was all one, there would be nothing there. So light looks at darkness and knows it's light because there's dark over there and it can see itself. And that's what we're doing. Right? So it's like, I know I'm Mason because there's a Daniel out there to reference myself in my idea of Mason. Right? And there's a world around me to reference myself inside of it. And so when we are born into sin, as in the Bible, sin, if you look at the definition of it, it means separation and to miss the mark of truth, like slightly off. And so the separation is close to the truth because it's inside of it, but it's not the absolute. It's only like half the equation. And that's what the mind is always piecing things together. That's why we have good, bad, night, day. That
is brilliant. So a friend of mine called Chris that I do a few podcasts with, we've discussed this before, that basically if you take the Genesis account and read between the lines a bit, creation comes from separation. It comes from division. Just our own existence. When there's no division, when there's no separation, there's basically nothing. Well, there's everything, but it's just one great big blob of everything. There's no kind of discerning between this and that, this or the other. So essentially, whatever this kind of singularity is, whether you want to call it God or source or whatever, it contains all things within it, good, bad, indifferent. The actual act of creation, where you have these separate egos, you, me, and so forth, it is a lens, effectively, isn't it? Where instead of just being sort of in one sense of, this sort of sense of oneness where there's nothing else outside of yourself, all of a sudden you've got this kind of physical world where there's others existing. And it's all kind of a big illusion, really. But it's a necessary illusion for whatever we are at source to be able to experience ourselves effectively. Yes. Does that make any sense at all? I'm just kind of rambling there.
It does. And I mean, the source of us knows that we are all one.
Yeah.
And so, but the mind and the ego and the perception of self, which is just a giant shadow, like it's all an illusion, right? Because we think we exist, but we don't. Like we're created and we created it. And that's when I went to that realm of the eyes, the realm of self. I saw every single perception and every perspective from Jesus to Hitler, like both of them. And absolutely, it sounds crazy. I see it's crazy to see both of them, but it's like, both were created and both serve a purpose. And the darkness is meant to turn us more towards the light. That's why things were created. Yeah. So it's like, in the new age world, you'll get a lot of people where it's like, oh, oneness, everything, we have to accept everything, blah, blah, blah. Like even the bad is good, accept it. And it's like, no.
The bad is bad.
Yeah, it's there to point us to the truth, right? So it's good in the fact that it helps us remember what is true.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose.
Yeah, and you can't effectively have one without the other because it all comes from some kind of source. I mean, you made a reference there back to the snake, the serpent in the Garden of Eden, telling Adam and Eve to eat the apple and be like God. The serpent said, "If you eat from the fruit, then you will be like God, and you will know good and bad." That seems to suggest, certainly in that Genesis account, that good and bad always existed. It was a thing there. It's just that they weren't experiencing it. Yeah.
And here's the funny thing: is if we zoom out from the words of what was said, and if we put ourselves in the perspective of God watching this situation, what do we see? We observe human nature.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like we see how we are told not to do something, so we want to do it more.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like we always have this thirst for knowledge, and that's the human. It's telling us right there what humanity is. It's this curiosity to go into the unknown.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. So it's interesting that, I mean, I've come to some of these conclusions that I've got. I don't know whether I'm correct or not in my thoughts, but I've come to these conclusions purely through thought process. I've never done ayahuasca or any ceremonies. I quite fancy doing one of those. Is it cacao?
Cacao, yeah.
Cacao,
really
yeah.
Good for opening your heart up.
Yeah, very similar sort of thing again. And the one thing that seems to come through all these different sort of ceremonies and plant medicines that people take is this oneness and this idea that your body is purely some kind of avatar. I think you referred to it as a spacesuit. You said that when you came back into your body again, you were like, wow, I've got hands, I'm a human.
Daniel, I literally, like, when I came back, I was like sitting there and I felt like a caveman in a cave, like kind of looking around, and I was still like seeing different realms going on around me, but I was like, it almost felt like what I'd imagine a caveman feels like when they become conscious of themselves for the first time. And so that's what I was looking at myself, and I was like, I have hands. I was like, I just spawned into this. Like, I'm here. I'm like an avatar. I can get up and walk. And I was walking. I felt like a baby moving around. And it was like, wow, like I am just putting itself into a label. Like, I am Mason.
Yeah. Expressing yourself in a separate instance to everybody else. What's your thoughts on consciousness itself, like you refer to the I am there? Do you feel it is the same same consciousness, the same I am, the same source that is working through you as it is through me, through Jesus, through Hitler, through... Is there just one single source of consciousness?
It's the same source, but it's how much we allow the light to shine through, right? So it's like, that's really what this tool of an ego is how much we allow it to fully express itself, right? In its true form. So you look at someone like Hitler, like there's no light in that man.
No, he wasn't reflecting the light. The light was shining on him, but he wasn't reflecting it.
Yeah, and like that's full ego takeover. So it's like it was literally dimming the light, and the perception lost control in it. I mean, you look at leaders like that, they have a self-eject button. Like the system gets rid of them, or they get rid of themselves because it's dangerous to the system. It's almost like a virus in a game.
Right. Yes. Yeah. That's good.
They're all gone. Like him, Stalin, like you name it. Like they're all out at some point. They disappear. And so, yeah, it was like the one thing I saw in this realm of self though is that there's literally infinite options in front of me. Everything existed. And so the one thing that came to mind when I came back into my mind was, wow, the infinite is so boring. And so like really this like journey is like, wow, there's everything here, but you know what? I think it's more fun if I just lose it and I find my way back into it and I go on a journey. So that's
I get that. I mean, I wonder whether that's why it happened in the first place. Creation, that is.
Exactly.
If you're just, if there's no sense of kind of temporality, if you're just kind of an eternal blob of everythingness, and I wouldn't even call that consciousness. I'd call it more awareness. Yeah. Consciousness to me seems to imply the ability to have one thought after another, past, present and future, and to be able to sort of have a journey. Whereas if you're this sort of ultimate source that's not expressing itself, I can see how that would be a bit boring.
And I wrote this too. Right afterwards, I said, how conscious would God be if he wasn't conscious of himself?
There you go. How conscious would God be if he wasn't conscious of himself? Yeah, he wouldn't be, would he?
No. So it goes, we are the nature of God.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love that. And this is kind of quite reassuring to me. Like I say, I've sort of come at this from a purely thought process and come to these conclusions. You've actually gone through an actual experience and you've come back with practically the same thoughts there. And like I say, I've got a friend that did the cacao and mushrooms, and he came to the same conclusion.
Yeah, the one thing that really stuck out the most though was what I said with Christ, right? So it's like when I went through the death experience, and I said, keep in mind like how I was thinking about like other people's stuff. As I go through that experience of dying, I had a very clear understanding and visualization of what it was like to die as Christ.
Right.
And I understood what it was like to be on the cross and to surrender yourself, to accept death for the love of those around you. Right. And so I truly understood in that moment what Christ is, who Christ is. And it's pure embodiment of that truth of God. And so, I mean, I think every single person should strive to live like that.
Surrendering of your own ego and putting others first. That's basically
how you conquer
the bottom line.
That's how you conquer fear and death.
That's how you conquer fear and death. Yeah, I'll just read a little bit more of what you said in your tweet. I'll put a link to this in the description as well of the video. You said, when you die to ourselves, we unconditionally give love to our ultimate nature. When we take ourselves out of the equations and live in pure flow, we get a glimpse of the truth. Fear and death are illusions and the ultimate key to the truth. So die to yourself, die to your fears and feel them consume you and destroy your universe. And when you can do that with honour and courage, you'll find your true unbounded nature on the other side. I am you, you are me, we are one, I am that I am. Remember who you are, it's not who you think. That is just amazing. That bit where you said about destroy your universe, I think it does take that, doesn't it? It takes a kind of complete implosion of your reality or perceived reality to actually realize who you are and your relationship to other people.
For anyone out there that wants to conquer their fear, all you have to do, instead of like waiting for the fear to come to you, is to go to it with love and allow yourself to fully fear and fully feel it until the point that you're just shaken, right? You feel like you're going to die until you go through the fear and you see on the other side that you're like, wow, that was pretty cool. And I love it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Face your fears. That's often the case, isn't it? You come through the other side in a much better place. That's amazing, Mason. I just thank you so much for sharing that experience with us. Absolutely brilliant. Just before we wrap up today, you run an organisation, I believe, called the Stampede Network, which you've been running since 2021, pre-COVID. Yes. Or during COVID. Did you set that up?
So the concept was like towards the end of COVID, but yeah, I started it December 5th, 21 in my parents' basement. And so I used the momentum of that. Our first video that I posted hit 6 million views and sold out the store 10 times over. And so I used the momentum of that. And there's a whole different story on that. It's all over my Instagram and TikTok, basically about surrendering to God and the way, and letting that happen, and changed my life. That's how I got out of Ohio. Now I'm down in Tampa, been growing this thing up. It's skyrocketing.
And what is the Stampede Network itself? What's it all about? What does it do? What does it sell? What does it offer? Yeah.
So it's a movement around making holistic wellness mainstream, right? Okay. And so we take basically every supplement out there is garbage. I'm going to say that because I've experienced it. I've been an athlete for 16 years, and I've biohacked myself to infinity and beyond. And I know what works and what doesn't. And so most of the things out there are synthetic, have BS ingredients. They're not clean. They're not actually made with love. And the companies do not have truth at their foundation. And so that's really what I wanted to build this around, was the 3 T's, which is truth, trust, and transparency, right? And so we fully embody that. And our goal is to heal people from the inside out, to awaken them from the inside out. Instead of focusing on the aesthetics and all that stuff, we just take care of what's inside. Everything will take care of itself. That's it. Built it as a community where that can happen. But also, too, what's the number one thing that sucks about self-improvement is that you have to do it yourself. It's lonely, right? So I wanted to make a place so we could do that together and share my knowledge and keep people accountable on their journey of self-improvement, and make them give them a place to belong and feel like they are part of community, give them a community to belong to. And while we do that, provide them with everything they need to be successful.
Brilliant. So everything from so you say it's holistic, so it's dealing with your physical needs, so you'll be offering supplements, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so right now we're focusing more so on the body, and then we'll get more into the mind.
And the spirit. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we'll get through, we'll have meditation protocols coming. We have events coming, getting into more spirit, like, bringing people together, awakening that. But yeah, a lot of our subs take the performance angle. So I call it spiritual performance. And so, yeah, it's really things that just help us live the most full life possible.
Love it.
Pre-workouts, Spartan bee bread, sleep, detox, you name it. But like, I want to have bring the
whole thing into a community where everyone's supporting themselves with that. That's absolutely awesome. Really good with that. So that's called the Stampede Network. That's available at stampedenetwork.com, or what's the...
Yes, thestampedenetwork.com.
Thestampedenetwork.com. Go and check it out, folks. So that's been absolutely fantastic having you on the show, Mason. That's been a real privilege hearing your story, and how you've come to very similar conclusions to what I have. Love that. Thank you so much for joining us.